I'm waking up to waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. Breathing in the chemicals. I'm breaking in and shaping up, then checking out on the prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. I'm radioactive, radioactive. I'm radioactive,
How are you supposed to learn about it if you don't like experience it, do it? So
Like, let's go camping, let's go hiking. And you just like, I just threw myself into it. So there was no like studying, there was no practicing. I've never tried to read a book about it. I just grew up in the UP. So I just did it.
So, how many years have you been ice climbing?
I started climbing ice in 1994,
Oh wow,
coming up on 20 years, I guess.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What got you into the sport?
Black Diamond catalog, and my climbing partner and I ordered tools, crampons, and drove to Colorado, and walked around this little town called Ouray, Colorado, and waited for people that had ropes and ice axes on your body, and said, "Take us climbing."
That's awesome.
That's how we learned how to climb.
We didn't bring like anything with us. We weren't camping. We were just gonna like go up and go down and no big deal. Well, we go up, it gets really dark and it starts raining and we don't have flashlights and we can't see anything. People are draining phone batteries trying to use their flashlights and we can't see anything. So we lost our trail. We don't have, I'm wearing like a raincoat and shorts in the fall in the UP, big mistake at night. And it's like cold and raining, now I'm wet and I'm pissed, like completely unprepared, and I feel horrible because I have these people with me from out of town that are probably like, we're gonna die. So, we got to a point where I had to keep my composure. You learn, you pick things up as you go, as you encounter different situations.
We started out with a flashlight, and something would go wrong with the flashlight, so it's like, oh, I'll bring matches instead, and then something will go wrong with the matches, and now I always bring a flint starter. Yeah, that's just the way I learn. Like, I learn by doing things. I'm not going to gain anything by picking up a book and staring at it for 3 hours, or watching a documentary. You gotta interact with something, you gotta be hands-on. It's the best way to learn anything, I think.
Nature is gonna take its course and gonna act how it prefers and wants to. Like, you can't control it, so you can't ever really be prepared for some situations. And so, like, even when you do get to take a class or learn from a book, I feel like you don't really ever know what to expect.
I don't know, I feel like I learn something new every time I'm outside. Like, even if it's just at a park or a simple hike on horseback, or I went on a trip one time where I hiked from Marquette to Lansing. I mean, it doesn't matter the scale, I always learn something new.
I'm learning that my clothes are really cold.
You what?
I'm learning that my toes are freezing. I should have worn wool socks.
That's something you learn though. So when you guys are like going through these experiences that like nature's kind of just like throwing you into something that you have to learn, what are the emotions that like you're going through your head?
Panic. Fear. No. There's a little bit of that, but like every
Fear
time.
is always good.
Yeah.
It's good to have some sense of fear, but I always try to avoid panic.
Yeah. I mean, I think fear isn't a bad thing. I think you need to keep it under control. And like I said, have confidence in your abilities because, you know, if you let fear take over, then you're in trouble. But a little bit of fear reminds you that, like, Mother Nature is forced to be reckoned with and reminds you that you need to be prepared and then kind of gets you back in that mindset of like, okay, what do I do to combat what's happening around me?
Would you guys say that it's better to have outdoor education be outside?
Preferably not in the winter, but yes.
All right.
You gotta experience it firsthand. Like, you can't start a fire in a classroom, you know?
I mean, you could.
Good, yeah.
But I think it's like also an environment thing, and you know, you can go through steps, you know, a million times in your head of how to build a fire, but like, what if you don't have a flintstone? What do you do then? That steps out, and then, you know, it's like you have to be able to understand your natural surrounding.
Yeah, it's like, it's one thing, for example, when you're doing like CPR, when you're practicing on a dummy, but it's totally different when someone actually needs you to perform CPR. It's like one thing to know how to set up the sticks for a fire, or know how to tie the ropes for climbing, but it's another thing when you're actually out there and it's raining. You gotta build a fire, or like when you're climbing with someone who doesn't know the knots or anything, you gotta explain to them. Or when something goes wrong, it's like a totally different scenario, and you gotta, that's the way you should learn.